Ousama Ranking, also known as Ranking of the Kings, is an anime full of heart and passion. Wit Studio once again proves they are able to masterfully adapt and polish a source material into a gem. Taking what we know of modern animation and raising that bar even higher than before. Originally, I wasn't interested in Ousama Ranking, but I have to thank everyone who suggested it. I seriously believe that Ousama Ranking become a classic for years to come. So with this video, I'm hoping that I can get you to share the word that Ousama Ranking is a must-watch. I've mentioned before that I've been on the internet for a long time. I've made tons of projects that have gone nowhere, and I'm sure countless other failures. And if anything, the only parting words I can give to you is that you'll never be ready to start any creative endeavor. By that, I mean there's no perfect moment. Sosuke Toka is the creator of Ousama Ranking, the work being his first manga at the age of 41, a very late start for a mangaka. With not much else to lose, Tota decided to go down the road of being a mangaka, so he quit his job. Truman doesn't sponsor quitting your job to following your dreams. I just want to make that clear. It's a romantic idea, but please stay employed. Toka took a huge risk to quit his job just to become a mangaka, a web mangaka, not even published in major magazines. Despite me not believing to quit your job over your dreams, I do believe every dream is worth risk. Such a risk could be a financial disaster, socially destroy your relationships, or inevitably end up a waste of time. Again, I'm not saying ruin your whole life. In moderation is probably the best way to go about it. But if you're expecting to get anywhere in the art world, a little risk is necessary. And Toka took the biggest one. But the main takeaway is that you're never too young or too old to follow your dreams. Whoever you are, take those first steps down that path. Remember, failing is nothing but a stepping stone towards success, never a pitfall. This also mirrors the theme shown in Ousama Ranking. Excellence can be achieved, despite what weaknesses society decides to label you with, or even the weaknesses that you label on yourself.
Ousama Ranking とは
In this world, kings compete for an assigned rank. Each king strives for a higher rank than their contemporaries. This is where we're introduced to the Boss royal family, with King Boss being acknowledged as the world's strongest man. Our protagonist is Bocchi, the first son of King Boss. Despite being the son of giants, a physically superior race, Bocchi is weak. Alongside his pint-sized stature, he is also mute and deaf. Off the gate, we already have an atypical protagonist. We have a character who can't speak out what he feels, so his decisions and choices must be made through his actions. Toka in an interview had this to say about Bocchi's disability. The deaf character aspect often gathers attention, but honestly speaking, it's your extra thing. It's not the primary theme I was trying to grapple with this manga. You'll see the reason through Bocchi's master Despa.
Bocchi! お前は勇気がない!
あなたはその欠けたもので、普通の人にはない、いろんなことを経験しています。自分のすべてを愛しなさい。勇気!
This is how I interpret Toka's words from my standpoint. Again, take it as you will, it's just my interpretation. Even though Bocchi himself is treated negatively because of his disability, it doesn't mean we shouldn't treat him like we would any other person. Bocchi isn't special because he's deaf and mute, he's special because he's his own unique individual. Even though he has a disability, we shouldn't let that identify him, as anyone can be Bocchi. A quick aside, Ousama Ranking's sign language is supervised by the Tokyo Foundation of the Deaf. Alas, it is an aspect of his character. We need to see the negatives that is accompanied with his disability, such as the townsfolk mocking their soon to hopefully be king.
バカなのさ。それに耳も聞こえないし、口も聞けない。
お前耳も聞こえないしバカだから誰も相手にしてくれないのか。
王子様は耳が聞こえないんだよ。
なんで耳ついてるじゃん。耳も聞こえないし口も聞けないのに。ねえあなた何か喋ってみてよ。お前は本当にバカだな。
Scenes like this are one of the shining elements I love so much about Ousama Ranking.
耳が聞こえない上に目も見えません。
たら即自ら命を絶つ。
同じ境遇ならば生きていく自信がない。彼はそれを乗り越え今を生きている強者ですな。
Having the characters and the audience empathize with those who have less than themselves in comparison. It is rather surface level, I'll admit. Yeah, a lesson I think that is being lost in modern times. Bocchi himself is the underdog of the story. He's part of a system that expects the world out of him, but he cannot meet said expectations. Losing fights won't just earn him injuries, it'll also damage the expectations others have for him. Personally, I like the idea of a royal underdog being the protagonist, but of course this doesn't mean he's without flaw in his writing. Bocchi is apparently 12 to 15, but by definition is a bubbling fool. He's exceedingly naive.
ボッチ様ボッチ様カバンはどうされました？盗まれたのですか？
To play devil's advocate, he is a sheltered royal, and a good number of characters mention his naivete.
あなた一人で何ができるっていうの？あなたは耳も聞こえないし力もない。外に出て恥をかくだけよ。
This still doesn't justify how dim-witted he can be at his age. That aspect will be a turn-off for those who don't like the overly dumb shonen protagonist. Throughout the story, we are shown the attitudes of those close to Bocchi. Their faith of Bocchi diminished over the time as they witness his imperfections towards assuming the throne, such as his sword instructor preferring the potential of Bocchi's younger brother Daida.
素晴らしい。この方は強くなる。これこそ王の剣だ。私の剣を。
Or his mother not wanting him to take the throne out of concern for his safety, believing Daida would be well suited for the throne, as he fares a better chance in the world of kings.
これではっきりしました。この子には王になる資格がないってことが。
Both Bocchi's mother, Healing, and his swordmaster Damas. Truly, they do care about Bocchi, yet their feelings for Bocchi have become twisted. This leads to the character flaws in Ousama Ranking. The core cast of characters are nuanced, never being black or white, good or evil. As of episode 15, we're only given one group of characters that are judged as evil, and even then the audience has to assume that these characters are far worse than just being murderers. Since the world itself has a lackadaisical approach to people just being randomly killed in a bar. So indeed the crimes of these characters must be heavy. Some might call Ousama Ranking's characterization surface level, I'd like to call it competent. This kind of character writing should be the standard. No character should act without reason.
ヒリングか私、お前はどちらにつくのだ？
And to act upon empathy or loyalty. Those are the two emotions that characters come to conflict with the most in Ousama Ranking.
ヒリング様、今のうちに。
アピスよ。お前に彼らを憎む理由などなかった。まして仲間なのだから。
There are many good examples, but let's use public enemy number 1 Damas, one of my favorite characters.
ドーマス、お前を息子の剣術指南役に任命する。
I know. Let me explain before you throw stones. I adore the portrayal of Damas before episode 4.
かわいそうなお方だ。強くなれない星のもとに生まれているんだ。
He empathized with Bocchi and decided to learn sign language just to be able to communicate with the young prince.
だいぶ手話が上手くなりましたね。ぼっちを驚かせてあげなさい。
You can even see that he's overjoyed to see that Bocchi understands his sign language.
調子はどうですか？通じた。あなたは今のままで大丈夫です。私が必ずあなたを守ります。
Despite all this, the only thing that was keeping him dedicated to helping the young prince was his loyalty to the kingdom. Deep down, even he knew he cared for the prince.
俺もそう思うぞ。
I believe good evidence for this is that he involuntarily translates for the prince.
でもこれではっきりしました。この子には王になる資格がないってことが。訳さなくていい。
Damas himself is even berated for his lack of loyalty to the prince.
兄上はお前の弟子だろうが卑怯者め！それを裏切って私に入れるとは進化の風上にも置ける！
Damas's actions in episode 4 not only destroy his relationship he had with the prince, but also damages Bocchi's innocent perception of people he's supposed to trust. Damas is left to question if his lack of empathy is justified in comparison to his overwhelming loyalty to the realm.
私は自分のしたことに誇りを持つべきだ。この両親の痛みは強い覚悟を持てない私の弱さだ。
This is the common conflict of Ousama Ranking. We see it from an undying soldier who will protect the queen no matter what. Seriously, this guy is a tank. His plot armor puts Reiner to shame. And through these interactions, we're given a healthy amount of insight towards the characters. This is paired with the more old school approach of storytelling, which makes a lot of sense given the author's age. Ousama Ranking tackles multiple character perspectives, each scene either developing the characters, the plot, or the world itself. This is a true showcase of cohesive and competent storytelling. I'd like to talk about episode 7, as it's one of my favorite episodes. This episode focuses mainly on Bocchi and his development and his relationships. It's an old school approach to character development, and now, in modern times, a risky one at that. The era has changed and people want more streamlined experiences. The modern approach is making the key elements into concise scenes that will streamline the story. But this episode is dedicated solely to Bocchi, outside of the introduction and the outro. All of it is meant to further develop his character. Hardly will Ousama Ranking ever waste your time with a scene that doesn't matter. With each scene you'll have learned something, whether it be of the characters' relationships, their motives, their abilities, or even where they fit into the world themselves. And of course these scenes will aid in foreshadowing elements that will happen later in the story, such as Queen Healy's need of potions after using her restoration magic. The story has now told us she needs these to recover her strength after using her magic. So when her and Bocchi reunite and they need her to use more magic, Kage brings out some of the potions.
ポーションを使い果たしてしまって、もう力が出せないの。はい。まだまだあるぜ。
But this isn't just out of nowhere, because when they met with Despa, he also had the potions there.
これはポーションですね。
Or how about the King of the Forest? The only indication that he might have been a real king is his golden crown. He could just be a crazy man for all we know. Yet prior to meeting him, we're given the scene of exposition.
歴代の王は皆同じ宝を選ぶが、その後、行方不明になるか、気が触れているらしいじゃないか。
This now fills in some context we have with the King of the Forest. He must have been the rank 1 king at one point in time and went insane. Not enough? Well, we got King Bo's flashback as well.
お前が次の私への生贄なのか。キングボー、お前も私に続く身。
With the uncanny similarity to the King of the Forest and this king, King Bo's father, are too close to call a coincidence. All of this in turn builds the world. It can give us insight into the ranking system not being all that trustworthy, or maybe someone else has nefarious intentions. Just another example of very cohesive, well thought out storytelling. But what I'm trying to get here is that it's very competent. Granted, I don't know if Toka has a self-imposed schedule, but he does have a certain amount of free range to take his time on his story. I want to talk about setting the tone. Due to the visuals of Ousama Ranking, it's been labeled for children. By the way, this is why we have a rating system. Any person after watching the first 3 episodes, hell, I say even the first, but to give benefit to the people who don't read tone very well, let's say the first 3 episodes. Despite its colorful and simple palette, Ousama Ranking is not directed towards children. Younger teens, sure, children, no. We can attribute Ousama Ranking's visual style to Toka's previous experience in drawing picture books. Or at least one picture book. Given his current skill level at the time of starting the manga, I don't think we could have gotten more mature designs. Which is by no means to be rude to the art, but it's definitely a weak point of the source material. The result of many physical altercations in Ousama Ranking ends up with characters having blood on their face or even beaten to a pulp. And all of this is displayed up till episode 3, so by that time the tone has already been set. I also can't imagine the political dialogue is anything appealing towards children. While episode 1 might betray the expectations of it being a children's show, there are hints of it being more than just that. Just something I wanted to mention since I have seen people attack the show over this. We live in an age where adult cartoons are a dime a dozen, so a show like Ousama Ranking should be piled in there with them as well. And since I mentioned episode 3, I just want to talk about one of my favorite animated segments of the show. This over-the-shoulder battle scene is so cool. Just this one segment right here had my jaw dropping. It's just so fluid, so smooth. It's such a clean fight. It's a telling sign of how skilled the animators at Wit Studio are. The simple designs of Ousama Ranking allow the animators to flex their proficiency. In similarity with Attack on Titan, Wit Studio also fixes the anatomy and perspectives of the source material. There's one episode in particular where it feels like the whole episode is rotoscoped. Luckily, this episode itself is just an outlier. Overall, Wit did an amazing job with this adaptation. Toka mentions that he wanted to make a story with a happy ending and display the weight of kindness and justice. Boji and Toga have taken a huge leap into a world where everything is against them. Yet despite this, they push on through. Ousama Ranking isn't looking to change the wheel. Instead, it's looking to be the best wheel possible.